Good morning, everyone. Ti Dave here. Today I'm with Ben, and he has a very interesting story. Same thing as with others, though. A horrifying story. Um, um, it's just hard to explain this to people who don't understand, but I feel like it's coming more to the forefront. And I was meditating this morning. I just want to tell y'all before we start. Um, those who those who are comparing yourself, um, like if like I used to be bad about this too. I would be a homeless TI having it rough and be like, well, uh, and then I would be hating on people for having homes and all that. But really, if you think about it deeply, a homeless person that is right spiritually and knows who he is and is connected with the Most High has it better than somebody who maybe uh have more material things, have a roof over their head, but not be connected spiritually. I don't know. I just thought about that and thought deep. And so that's what I had to learn to do is compare myself to where I'm at spiritually, because this physical world can take us over and keep us busy, 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 like the Matrix is designed to do. Busy, 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 pay bills, work, do all this. Then you have no time to find yourself or your spiritual path and connect with the Most High or whatever your belief is. So I just thought I would make because even a homeless person, there's somebody that's got two legs missing that may be in a worse position that's praying just to be homeless and have legs. So I just thought I'd throw that out there as something positive to think about today. Always focus about your spiritual path. Never let the matrix get you focused on who's got it better and all that. As long as you know you're on your spiritual path, you are where you are, you're connecting with who you are, finding out who you are as a person spiritually. That's what matters in life at the end of the race. So anyway, thank you, Ben, for coming today. Um, I've heard your story two different times on the Strange Planet podcast and on Frank's podcast, and it's a very, very interesting story. And I'm glad you're coming on here to tell it because I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to on this channel to what you've been through. So anyway, my first question will be, what was your life like before you were targeted, and what has it been since?
Well, my life, for the years before I was targeted, it was me and my wife. We met in 2018, and we had been together, the whole time. So at that point, before the targeting started, we were together for 5 years. We had a great relationship. We never even argued. We're just kind of simple people. We like to go out to eat. We like to, hang out, watch Netflix. She is originally from Thailand. I met her here when she came here to Boston to study English. And she was going to school, an English as a second language school, and was introduced via her friend was dating my friend at the time, and they set us up on like a double date. And we ended up, well, I liked her a lot, so I just kept calling her and texting her right after that and taking her out, and she eventually fell in love as much in love with me. And so that's what we were doing before the targeting. We like to go to the beach and just really chill, kind of normal life. And then we were living at the time in Pawtucket, and that was one of the only areas we could find where like the rent was still affordable because it's crazy here in Massachusetts, really high rent. And then they just started like, increasing the rent like every other month like crazy at this place in Pawtucket until it was almost like basically like double when we moved in. So we had to move. Um, and The only place we could move to, the only like it was weird. Like I was searching online for apartments to move to, and it's like there was like nothing available. And now I don't know if it was because of the housing crisis in Massachusetts or if something was going on with my phone. But the only place we could move to was a place that her friend, or sorry, excuse me, I would say like just somebody from the Thai community that she knew through Facebook, um, said, "Oh, you can move into this place above the Shaking Crab in Newton, and we'll rent a whole floor to you." For 1,600 a month, which is like for Newton, that's like extremely cheap. It's a very like rich area. a very nice area. And we moved in there, and that's when everything started getting wacky. And yeah, that was October of 2023. Um, and it started, well, the first thing that started was the weird noises at night. And I didn't know what was going on. My wife told me that she thought the place was haunted, and she had other Thai people that had gone there and rented a room, and they had all said that they had heard stuff at night, and they all thought that the place was haunted. And I do believe in the supernatural and stuff, but it was just weird, and I didn't really buy it. Um, and yeah, it was now looking back, I think it was a form of V2K to freak me out and to kind of set an atmosphere of fear and anxiety. Because it was weird. It was like you would hear like somebody coming up the stairs and look at the stairs and there's nobody there, or like it would sound like there were footsteps like right next to you and there was nobody there. It would sound like in the walls. It sounded like something like leaning against the wall, like creaking, strange creaking noises, just bizarre stuff. And then and then my computer got hacked. So that was the first overt targeting thing that a lot of people experience. It started running like super slow. And actually here's something I left out of the other interview. There was this gentleman that I was like playing video games on my computer, and he had this guy just showed up in one of the games I was playing, and he really wanted to play with me, and he was like, "Oh, invite me to your next game and invite me to your Discord." And that guy just like would not leave me alone. He was like every day he'd be there in my Discord, like waiting for me when I got home from work to play. And the weird thing was he didn't seem to like me. He was like very rude and dismissive about a lot of things I said. It seemed like he wasn't really playing the game half the time. Um, and he started saying like wild stuff. Like he at one point he just like he yelled out like I'm gonna shoot up at my office and saying stuff like that, and I would immediately be like, hey, don't say that stuff in my Discord. That's insane. I don't care if you're trying to be edgy, but don't say that. And then he said, like a day or two later, he said, I'm gonna plant, child abuse videos, we'll put it that way, on your computer. And he said that to me. And at that point, I was like, all right, well, this guy's a lunatic. I'm gonna, I came home the next day and I went to go block him and remove him off of everything. And as I'm going to block him and remove him, he starts sending messages immediately on my Steam, like, "Hey, what are you doing? Hey, come play!" Like over and over and over and over again. It's like he knew I was going to block him and remove him as a friend. And at that point, I was convinced that he could see what was going on my computer. So I took it offline because it had been running slow on top of that. And sure enough, I found spyware on there, a bunch of it. There was I forget, it was called like Bankster was one of the spyware things, which that steals like banking information. There was a worm on there. And basically, and then when I took it offline and I switched accounts and looked at one of the other user accounts on there, I found like a special Windows option thing that popped up, and it included stuff like, excuse me, it included stuff like leave the microphone on when computer is turned off, connect to remote X computer, and a bunch of like spying, like literally spying stuff.
Commands.
Yeah, yeah, commands. It was called like special Windows options or something like that. And yeah, like leave, and like one of them that struck me was it just said, don't leave the microphone on when computer's off. And another one was if computer's turned off, put it into hibernation mode and don't fully turn off. So this guy was spying on me, or he was working with people that were spying on me, or I don't know exactly what was his connection was with all of it, but I think that's what was going on. And
Now before all this, before all this stuff started, did you upset somebody? Do you have any reason why you're targeted? Do you have
um,
any guess? I guess we never know why, I guess. Well, some of us do a little bit, but
I kind of gave up on trying to guess, because I hear people say that like, well, who put you on the list? And I mean, like, we don't even know if there's a list. I mean,
right.
even if there is a domestic terrorist list or something like that, I mean, it's all classified and you can't see your name on there anyway. So, and how are you going to guess from there who lied about you and put you on there or whatever? So I gave up on that, and my feeling now, with all the research I've done and all the TIs I've talked to and the reading I've done on the technology, is that this is a it's kind of a two-level thing. It seems to be a government program, like an umbrella, that basically is working on, literal mind control, like mass mind control and human experimentation. And then under that, you have organized crime that works under that secrecy umbrella and sometimes with the government. From anything from just stealing everybody's assets to human trafficking. There's the pedophilia angle where, people can use this technology to get families split apart and get their kids. There's a lot to it. And if you know the history of like the CIA and the FBI, um, you know that they work with organized crime. Yeah, that's what I think it is. And all the TIs I've talked to, I mean, these are innocent people. I mean, these aren't like people that went around getting a bunch of people mad. I mean, I just talked to one last night. He was an IT guy that just fixed computers. I mean, he wasn't doing anything to make anybody, want to put him on a list. It just seems like they're going after kind of intelligent and free-thinking people, and a lot of them seem to be religious. Overwhelmingly, they seem to be good, like religious people. And
Right.
me and my wife are. I was never consider myself that much of a Christian. Technically Baptist, but I always follow the golden rule. And Jesus's teachings of being nice to people. Treat others how you want to be treated. And my wife is a devout Buddhist. She's like a perfect sinless person. She won't steal, she won't do anything that's against what the Buddha says. And very generous, give people gifts, go bake banana bread muffins and give them out to everybody and do stuff like that. So I think they just target good people,
So
because I think that.
your wife's see my stepmom's Filipino, like from the Philippines, and
Hmm.
I'm familiar with the Asian community. They're very close. They always keep in touch with each other. Do you think because there has been some hate crime in the Asian community from people that don't like Asians, you think that could have played a role or no?
I think I have a theory because from what I've been seeing, the Thai community and the Vietnamese community seem to be targeted with human trafficking in this area. There seems to
Okay.
be a thing where they are targeting women from the third world with this technology. And from my research, because when this stuff started happening, like I was getting put into like hypnotic trances. I actually like when I was getting like hit with like V2K and like tortured in like some of the hardest months of when they were doing it, where they were really trying to break me. I mean, I literally snapped out of a trance at one point, and they or I didn't no, I didn't really snap out of the trance. The next day, I remembered being in a trance. I must have came out of it enough to actually remember it. And they were saying they were using hypnotic, they were doing a hypnosis session. They were saying things like, look to him, and, basically like training me to listen to one of my V2K handlers, and care about what they think. And I remembered it the next day. I was like, you guys are doing hypnosis sessions on me. So, and then, later on I had seen my wife dropped into a full-on hypnotic trance once a target had gone on for months, and it was weird. It was like things were happening when she was sleeping. She was doing weird stuff like pulling the entire blanket over her whole head and cocooning herself. If I would even make a peep or turn on any type of small light, she would just pull the blanket off and be like, "Turn that off," and she would just be like fully awake. And it would be like that all night. It was like utterly terrifying. And at one point, I mean, I'm talking to her, and my V2K is basically telling me like we're taking over your wife's mind. Like we can control your wife, we can put her in hypnotic states, we can do whatever we want with her, and you can imagine all the horrible things they're saying they're doing, which you can never
Wow.
believe anything. You can never believe anything they say. But as they're saying this, I mean, she literally just she went slack, and her head went like that, and she just went into like a full on like it looked like she was just passing out, but she stayed sitting up in the chair. And I grabbed her and shook her and it was like, yo, what's going on? What's going on? And she just went and
So how
then
did
and
all
then
this?
then got up and then walked away and sat down like completely calm in the other room. And I was like, what was that about? What did you just almost pass out? And she just said, get away from me. I don't want to talk to you. In this weird, demeanor with like a weird half-lidded, like strange, serious face. Yeah, th a lot of facial expression changes with her. Like she started making facial expressions and holding her face in a completely different way than I had seen for 5 years
And all
after
this
this
stuff just
started.
started out of the
So,
blue, right?
uh, excuse me. Yeah, it basically did. Yeah, I mean, it happened when we moved to Newton. I'm trying to think of. Yeah, I mean, it started with them trying to freak me out and trying to make me using V2K to. They tried to make me think that my neighbors downstairs, the two Thai women that were letting us rent the floor, the V2K. I mean, they can supplant ideas, they can supplant thoughts in your head, and they can cause extreme uh, different emotions. And so I just had this emotion that something was after me, that the mob was coming to kill me, that something, or a government agent was coming to kill me. I had this like, really like intense feeling that there was impending danger all the time. And they tried to supplant the thought that those two women were involved and that they were hacking, they were hacking my computer and they hacked my phone and all this stuff. And I never acted on it. The only thing I did was I calmly approached one of them and I asked them like, "Hey, do you know anything about phone hacking? Because my phone's got hacked, and I've never dealt with this before, but like this is the second phone in a row where it got hacked. I mean, you don't know anything about that, do you?" And she just said, "No, I don't know. I don't know anything about what you're talking about." And she said it kind of weird, but I just left it at that because I mean, what are you gonna do? What am I gonna do? I'm gonna rough
Right.
up some little Asian lady? Like, I'm not, it's crazy. So, yeah, they tried to get me to freak out and I think that they were just trying to get me arrested or give me a mental health diagnosis and that
Yeah,
went
because
on for
if you think
so
about it, that's what the first stage of a lot of people's targeting is. They run the
yeah.
psyops, they leave plausible deniability in everything they do, and then you
Hmm.
make the decisions based off your reactions to the psyops that destroy your life. Then depending on how it goes and how you hang in there, no evidence, and it looks like you just made decisions and just made these crazy decisions, off the wall decisions, and destroyed yourself and got paranoid and lost
100%.
your mind. When really
Yep.
they're behind the scenes perpetrating the whole thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, doing all sorts of I mean, I looked it up after. It's called active surveillance. That's what they call it in counterintelligence. It's when you purposefully let people know that you're watching them, which is what they did with my computer and my phones. I mean, they could have hacked that stuff and I'd have no idea. I wasn't checking for that stuff, but they were doing stuff like changing settings on it, making it behave weird. And then I went looking for this stuff, and then I found it. So they want you to know that, what they're doing to freak you out and to yeah, and to make you make mistakes
Yep.
and to ignore your life and disrupt your whole way of life. Because then it's like all day, every day, all you're thinking about is who the heck is after me, who's watching me, what is going on, what's going to happen, and it totally destroys your whole way of life because you're just so freaked out and worried. Especially if you have a loved one, that's with you and you don't know, if they're being targeted or who's out there, who's trying, what are they after? Um, and yeah, so yeah, they kept trying to get me. Sorry, excuse me. They kept trying to get me wellness checked. That is something that happened when in Newton. At one point in Newton, I got so freaked out. I actually did start to kind of believe that like the women downstairs were involved because I was just so freaked out, and they were. It was like I've never experienced that amount of anxiety and just like confusion. It was looking back like it did not feel natural. And and I found these weird crawl spaces all around the apartment up there. I found a giant room that had been completely sealed off behind the bathroom. There was basically a bedroom size room behind this wall panel I opened up that had a light fixture in it and connected to crawl spaces that went to other parts of this like giant house. And I had been hearing and it sounded like people were, in the walls, like leaning against the wall and making like these creaking noises. So at that point, oh, and I had also at one point in the bathroom, where one of the crawl spaces was above me and next to, behind the toilet there, I found that entire room. When I was in the bathroom one day, I was running the shower and I was just sitting there like all freaked out, like what the F is going on? and I just happened to kind of I heard an aerosol spraying sound. Like it sounded like somebody was spraying hairspray. And I looked up at the bathroom light fixture that has like, it's like the light fan combo, the exhaust fan combo. And and I saw this aerosol like coming out of there. You could see the aerosol like it wasn't the steam from the shower that was over there, but over here I could specifically see like the when you see like the shadow of aerosol, like it's very like specific, and it was just a aerosol coming out of there. And I was just like, what the, what is this? And at that point, like I just like walked up and looked up there. I hadn't discovered the crawl spaces at that point, but I was just like, what is that? I have no idea. So that, basically started to get me on the idea that we need to get out of this apartment. Like there's something the matter with this apartment.
Did you ever notice fresh cigarette butts? Any kind of evidence left behind in the crawl space?
No, the crawl space, the only one that I could get into was that it basically just looked like a bedroom that would have been sealed off, and there was a fresh light bulb in the light fixture on the wall in there, and I mean,
Right.
why? So and that had basically that shared a wall completely with a bathroom where you could see like cracks and you could look into the bathroom from there.
Wow.
And then like on the wall that shared with the bathroom at the top, there was a crawl space that was small, but somebody could crawl up on and get up on top of the bathroom. And then I had found because I'd heard stuff in the ceiling above the living room. So I opened up the light fixture in the living room and looked through, and I saw it was about a 5 foot tall crawl space up there that when I looked up, it was all completely clean. Like you could see the insulation. It was like the eaves of the house.
Wow.
So there was another huge crawl space that I think went across the entire living room and kind of kitchen area. So yeah, it was a bizarre setup. And at that point, I was like, oh, this is like a setup. Like this is some crazy. I don't know what's going on here. And so we moved. And again, the only place that we found to move to was her Thai friend said like, oh, I have an apartment here in Waltham. You can move in next month. And we moved in there, and like right away, all weird stuff kept happening, and I couldn't believe it. And I started to question my sanity because all of a sudden I was hearing it sounded like somebody in boots just stomping around back and forth upstairs, and I would walk into a room, and they would stomp it over like right over me and stop right over me. I walk over to the bathroom, they would stomp over, and they would come over to the bathroom.
So
If I
both of y'all were
turned on,
basically freaked out.
well, yeah, I mean, but this is the thing. My wife didn't notice that at all. When I said like, "Do you hear people stomping around?" She goes, I think I hear some people walking sometimes, but I don't hear stomping." So I don't even know at this point if the stomping
Maybe
was
they were using
V2K.
V2K then.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And like anytime I turned on the bathroom sink or the kitchen sink, they would do the same thing. Anytime I flushed the toilet, they would flush the toilet. It was bizarre. And now looking back, like, I don't even know if that was real, if that was a V2K. I mean, that could have been a handler, they could be on the other side of the country just pressing buttons on a keyboard and making me hear this crap. That's how this technology works and that's how tricky it is. But it gives you the illusion like you have a 24-hour, agent or somebody, watching you like right upstairs. And it freaked
Right.
me out, awfully. And then I started at night, I started hearing stuff in the basement below us, like, feet scratching on the concrete and stuff like that. At one point, somebody somebody was actually under there at one point because there was a kitchen cabinet underneath the sink. And if you go down in the basement, you could basically like push up on the bottom of that kitchen cabinet panel, like and you could actually move it. Like there was no insulation, protecting it. And one night, somebody just went and punched that from the basement and knocked over the cleaning bottles and stuff that was under the sink, and scared the hell out of me. I thought somebody was trying to break in. And yeah, it was like every night I was just like walking around like guarding the place, thinking that somebody was going to break in. And I was horrified. And they sleep deprived me. I would just stay up all night, sometimes just like looking around, and I'd hear a noise on this side of the house, I'd hear another noise on this side of the house, and they were just trying to drive me nuts. They were trying to sleep deprive me, get me to do something wild, so that they could section me. And finally, I called up the property manager there and I said, listen, like because there's a door to the basement that goes outside in the backyard, and the doorknob is broken, so anybody can walk in there. It's not even locked. Can you fix that? Because I think people have been coming in the basement. I'm hearing noises at night. I don't know if kids are going down there to drink beer or smoke pot or whatever. It could be anything, but I'd rather it feel better if you just put a lock on the door. And and immediately he's like, "Oh, I'll put a camera down there. I'll change all the locks and I'll put a camera down there." And I was like, "Oh, wow. That's great." I was like, "Thank you. I didn't expect you to actually even do anything. I'm used to really crappy landlords." Uh, and uh, and so the next, I would say like 3 days later, 4 days later, I come home from work and I hear somebody, like my wife isn't home, and I'm coming home. I go to open up the back door and I hear just like people like walking around in my apartment. Like it sounded like one person like running, trying to like, do something. I thought I heard like a door close or somebody knock into something. And I freaked out and I open up the door and I run in there and I swear that I hear the door close on the other side to the front hallway, which is like the way out of the apartment. As I'm running over, I hear the door to the basement close, which is in that front hallway. So I go, one of these people are breaking in. I caught him, and I run down there. I run down to the basement. I run down. I look around, and as I'm running down to the basement, I could hear footsteps like somebody was running through the basement. But I think all of this was just V2K. Now, I don't think there was anybody there because it was all just noises. But they
Right.
sounded 100% realistic. It sounded like I was there was somebody running in front of me, and I just ran down there. I looked around, and when nobody was there and I didn't hear anything else, I just kind of was like, freaked out. But I just walked back up the stairs. The property manager called the police. So within 10 minutes of that happening, of me just running down into the basement and looking around and then going back upstairs, he called the police. So he was watching actively that camera. And instead of calling me and going, "Hey, what's up? Why are you running down to the basement?" He called the police and called in a wellness check on me. So, I'm and I'm up there and I see police walking down the driveway and I go, "All right, great. Maybe somebody saw somebody break into my house and they called the police." That's what I was thinking at this point. And they come to the back door and they look bizarre. One of the police is like his eyes are like wide open and he's like all nervous looking and he's looking down at my pockets over and over again. The other guy's like angry, like is like he's already like in a bad mood. Just seemed like an asshole, basically. And and they go, "Yeah, and I said like, "Hey, I think somebody might have broken into my house. I just heard some weird sound. But like I'm not sure. Like, did somebody call you because they saw somebody breaking into my house or leaving?" And they said, "Oh, we're not here for that. Um, we got a call from your landlord, the property manager here, and he said you ran downstairs and he saw you on camera and you don't look like yourself. So we're gonna check your mental health and make sure that you're okay." And I was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, I just walked out of the basement because I thought I heard somebody down there. I thought that somebody might have broken into my house. Then I didn't find anybody, so I walked back upstairs. How was that a sign of mental illness? And at that point, the cop got wicked short with me. I was just like, "Are we gonna have a problem? Like, are you gonna cooperate?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm cooperating, man. Do you want to check me out? You can check me out." And and yeah, at that point, they were like, "All right, we're calling an ambulance to come down here, and they're gonna have a mental health professional, like or an EMT, I guess, evaluate you and decide if you need to go to the hospital." And I was like, "Wow, that seems like really extreme for walking down to the basement." And then they did that. "Well, are you hearing voices? Did you call the landlord and say you heard voices downstairs?" And I said, "No, I called the landlord and I said that the lock to the back door was broken to the basement and that I heard footsteps down there a couple different nights." And they were like, "But you didn't hear voices." And I was like, "Nope, didn't hear any voices." And when the ambulance got there, there was no evaluation. There was no mental health evaluation. I mean, the EMT basically just walked in and said like, "Hey, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm a little freaked out because this guy wants to bring me to a hospital for walking down to a basement." And they went, "All right, well," and the cop just goes, "All right, get on the gurney." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "You have to go down to the hospital to be evaluated." And I was like, nobody even talked to me. Like, how can you bring me to a hospital for walking down into a basement? And again, he like got into like a football tackle pose and was like, "Are we gonna have a problem? Like, are you resisting?" And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. I don't want any of that. I don't want to get tasered or anything." And so they put me on a gurney. They wheeled me out in front of all the neighbors. There was like four cop cars there, and an ambulance and a fire truck. And I'm like, I walked down into a basement. I'm like, what the hell is going
Kind of
on
like a
here?
humiliation ritual in front of
Yeah,
the whole neighborhood.
all these
Right.
apartment complex. It was the whole apartment complex. There was like a dozen people outside looking like, oh, what's going on here? And I'm getting wheeled out on this gurney, like, and I felt, yeah, humiliated and like felt like it was ridiculous. I was like, how could this happen? And so they start bringing me to the hospital, and they bring me two hospitals over. Um, and when I get there, the intake nurse goes, "Why did they bring you all the way to Cambridge from Waltham?" And I go, "I don't know why they brought me here at all. Like, I'm really freaked out. All I do is walk down into a damn basement. Like, how can you try to send somebody to a psych ward for that? Like, what is going on?" And then the EMT comes in to the intake nurse and she goes, "Guess what? The cop just changed the police report and said that he hit himself on camera down in the basement." And I went, "What?" I was like, "Why would I hit myself?"
So,
And
was the basement
but
part
here
of
in
what you were
Massachusetts,
renting?
no, I was renting the first floor, and then there was a basement that we had access to for storage.
I'm just saying that's
Yeah.
weird. He'd be even watching the camera. Who
Yeah,
sits around and watches
that
a
was something.
basement?
Yes, and that was something that took me a while to figure out. I was like, wait a minute, the cops were there within like 10 minutes after I ran down there. So this guy must have called. He must right like live been watching the camera and then called the cops. Who the hell is doing that? Why are you staring at a
Right.
basement camera? Or and then on top of that, why would you call the cops about it? And I mean, he had my number, had my email. He didn't contact me at all, which is very suspicious. And yeah, so when I got to this hospital in Cambridge, immediately the intake nurse goes, "Why did they send you all the way to this hospital? There's two other hospitals on the way." And what, you just walked down to a basement? Like, did you do anything else? And I was like, "No." I was like, "I don't know what's going on." And then the EMT comes in and goes, the police officer just changed the report. The police officer that sectioned him changed the report and said that he hit himself on camera, and they have a video of him hitting himself, which under the law, if you're a danger to yourself or others, they can put you into a psych ward here in
Right.
Massachusetts. So he just lied. He just straight up lied. And later on, my wife had went down to the property manager's office and watched the video, and she said that I didn't hit myself. And there's no evidence of that at all. I mean, I should have. I mean, at the time, I was just being tortured, by V2K and just, freaked out continuously. So like, I didn't even think like, oh, I should sue these people. I was just happy to be. I mean, they kept me there for like 4 hours in the psych ward. They asked me all sorts of questions, but thankfully the intake nurse, um, she pulled some strings and actually like let people know like, yeah, a corrupt cop, sent him here. He didn't do anything. Get this guy out of here. And when they evaluated me, they said, "Yeah, you're fine. There's nothing the matter with you. Just don't go down to the basement again." Which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, I was horrified. I mean, I thought that they were just going to lock me up in that psych ward. And then when they eventually they pulled it off. Because that is what they do in the early parts of these targeting is they want a mental health diagnosis on people to discredit them, and make them look like they're out of their minds, so nobody believes what's going on. Um, because after that, when I got back to the apartment the next day, our property manager said, we want you to move out. We want you to move out of here." And I was like, "Move out for what?" Because I walked down to a basement. And he's like, "Yeah, so we can either evict you or you can move out. If you move out within a week or two, we'll give you like, half of your rent back." And so we had to move. We had to move. We only lived in that apartment for 1 month. For 1 month. I
Wow.
mean,
And didn't
it was
cause
like a
no
total.
trouble or nothing.
Didn't I ran down to a basement. I ran down to
Right.
a basement, and yeah, it seemed like a setup. It seemed like a setup where they were just counting on me getting. But thankfully, that nurse and that EMT, they saw that that police report was changed, obviously on purpose to try to get me sectioned, and they put in a word for me, and they made sure I was on a fast track to get, because like they were saying I had to stay there overnight before I could be evaluated before like a doctor was in, but then they managed to set up like a Zoom call with a psychiatrist who talked to me and cleared me, um, and but that so then it got even worse. Then we moved to Stoughton, Mass. And Stoughton, Mass is like, I don't know if anybody's read about Stoughton, Mass and the corrupt cops in there. I mean, they had one that was just they had one that murdered some girl, some 15, 16-year-old girl that he impregnated, and then, the local coroner covered it up, and the FBI had to come in and bust him and send him to jail. So there, it's a real bad area as far as, corrupt cops. And they started at this new apartment. I just started getting openly V2K'd, like people actually talking to me. That's where it started happening. It was actual people just talking directly into my head, like, like synthetic telepathy almost. Like it was just a complete like psychological attack, just berating me, attacking me, keeping me up all night. Just saying like awful stuff. And that's where that I had the memory of like an actual like a hypnosis session. Like I remembered it, the next day of like they're knocking me into trances and then, giving me hypnotic commands and post-hypnotic suggestion. And so yeah, it was real bad there. And at one point, and this is where they started telling me, they were telling me like we took control of your wife. Like we're gonna sex traffic your wife. We're doing anything we want to her. When she's at work, she won't remember anything. Saying, all like the worst things you could imagine somebody could say, that they're doing to your wife. And I think they wanted me to show up at her work and freak out, and do stuff like that. Um, but I went down there in like a normal way, like, hey, honey, do you want to have lunch? And do stuff like that sometimes just to check on her. And it seemed like she was fine there. So I just figured these people are trying to trick me, and trying to get me to do something wild, which I refuse to do.
Right.
Um, and
Now,
yeah,
now around this time when all this stuff was happening, now I don't know if you had a family support system and friends. Do you think any smear campaigns were set? Like, did people just start shying away from you? Did you go through any of that? Like, just lose?
yeah. I did before the targeting. Before I realized I was being targeted, I didn't have that many friends. I just had some work friends, and I hadn't talked to my family in 18 years or something like that. They were like
Oh,
kind of I'd really like no, I was really kind of a lone wolf type of dude. And but at the place I was working at, because I was working at that time, I was working at I helped a friend manage a hydroponic store that sold basically sold like cannabis growing equipment, and I had done that for like a number of years before. I was a manager at another hydroponic store for like 13 years when I was younger, so I knew how to sell all this crap and how to teach people how to grow plants. And one of the guys that was coming in there just like freaked out on me, just like two different people. And they were kind of customers that were coming in, they were friendly. And then it was just like something turned, and one of them started calling me like a rat, and telling everybody that I was telling people's business to other people, and I was gonna snitch them out to the cops, and like weird stuff like that. And at the time I was like, well, that guy is mentally ill. He has some kind of problem. But then now, talking to other TIs, I see that pattern of they'll do these they'll get somebody that's kind of mentally compromised or just kind of a gossip, and I think they just implant it in their head. I don't think that they pay these people. I don't think that they're approached by anybody. I think that this is like a remote mind control technology where they can just make somebody really not like you. And then if they're kind of like I would say mentally compromised. If they're kind of slow, or have a mental problem, or even if they're like an impulsive person likes to talk a lot, they can be nudged easily with this technology to spread all sorts of bullshit about you, and to create like an adversarial relationship and try to pit people against each other. Yeah, that's one thing I noticed. Yeah, early on they definitely did do that, and then they did it with me and my wife. I mean, my wife started becoming like extremely argumentative about anything, like stuff that just was not anything to even argue about, and she would just go into these long looping arguments with me, saying the same things over and over, and I didn't know what was going on at first because like we barely even argued for like 5 years. We never really had an issue. And now she was arguing with me over like any like everything, and it was really bizarre. and it was nonsensical. Like the way that she would argue, she would just say the same thing over and over again and wouldn't elaborate on stuff. Um, and uh, and yeah, they basically just, kind of turned her against me. And now it's, I mean, I it's basically, still like that where, we get along and, I do everything I can to just be as good a husband as possible. But then there'll be times where just something happens and it's just like a full on, attack and she hates me. And I just have to, I have to try to keep my temper because like, it's brutal. Like they'll make her insult me and say, like awful stuff that isn't true. And this is like, an hour beforehand where like all lovey-dovey, everything's fine. And then it's like a switch is it's like a lever is pulled or a button is pushed remotely and then like bam, like it's like World War III. And I just have to like, go into the other room and just kind of, let her like reset. And then later on when I go to her and I'm like, hey, is everything okay? And she'll act like I was the aggressor. And she'll say, I can't believe you were, so mean to me. I can't believe you were, say you told me to shut up. I can't believe you told me to shut up like that. Like you're abusive. And I'm like, you were just calling me like an idiot loser, saying like all sorts of crazy stuff to me first. And then like I eventually walked away and said, okay, shut up, and but yeah, they'll leave the perception in her head that like that I'm the one that's being mean. I'm the one being offensive and starting it. And yeah, it's yeah, they turn people
Wow.
against each other. And I've seen that a lot. And a lot of TIs think that people are being paid. They think family members are in on it and they're consciously aware of them being targeted. And I don't think that's the case at all. From what I've seen, people are remotely, controlled with this technology to do this stuff.
Well, I think in some situations that's the case. In some situations, it's mind control. That's my
That's
belief about
possible.
it.
Yeah, that's possible.
Yeah, but definitely mind control, and then they use negative association conditioning, influence mapping, and stuff like that. And like if you're going through targeting every time you go around a certain family member, all this bad stuff will happen and all this stuff. So then you associate. I guess the best deal. So if they know that you're close to your father and your father drinks Mountain Dew all the time, what they'll do is they'll have when people perp you, they'll have Mountain Dews. So every time they perp you, and it's your father's favorite. So then you start thinking your father's a perp because he drinks Mountain Dew. You see, because you've done
Hmm.
associated it. All them. That's some kind of simple way to explain influence mapping. They find out what you know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean that can happen, but there's also there's a part of the brain that is basically responsible for pattern recognition. And sorry, sorry, 1 second. And I think that that part of the brain can be influenced because I've seen this happen with a lot of TIs where they think that they're like, oh, I have a convoy of cars with one headlight following me today, or they'll say like, I'm being followed by cars that are only the color red, or they'll try to find more like, spiritual type patterns of what's going on. They'll see certain numbers and certain phrases. And you can influence the parts of people's brains that look for this pattern recognition and give more of a feeling of significance to what's going on. Because when I was being targeted, before heavily, they did that to me, where like they would give me these weird feelings, like I felt like I was some kind of detective or something, and I would get these weird feelings of like epiphany, like they'd have this like weird a eureka moment where I'd be like, oh, so this is what's going on, and that's what's happening, and that's who's doing this, and then it would just be like the next day would be a totally different thing, and it felt like I was just going nuts. But they can play with parts of your brain like that and cause different feelings. Like they would do it was like they could press a button and give me deja vu. Like I would be, doing something and you get that strong deja vu feeling like, oh my God, like I feel like I've already done this before. And they would just do that all the time to me. And that went on for a long time. Yeah, like eureka feelings, feeling like you're discovering patterns that aren't really there is one thing that they try to do with me. I thought that there was something about the Subaru cars at one point. Excuse me. I thought that's, people driving Subarus were significant. which is crazy. It doesn't make any sense. But that's just an example of the type of things that this technology is capable of. And I've done tons of research. I don't know, what your thoughts are on like is this do you think this is purely like nanotechnology like graphene oxide and aluminum, or do you think that do you believe in the implant thing? Do you think they still do implants?
Um, I think a lot of the older TIs have them, maybe.
Hmm.
But I from my research, they can target you by your DNA. They can target you by your neural signature. Um, the biofield's real, so there's all kinds of different ways they can do stuff. Processed foods uh, have been putting this in. I mean, from my research, this all started uh, through processed food, chemtrails, stuff like that, putting that stuff in your body, and and then you're surrounded by electromagnetic waves, and um, it's just,
Yeah.
it's just deep as to where it all started. But
Well, I mean,
I think if they had a
just
chance to put an implant in you, yeah, they might. I think I probably
I
have.
don't
I
think
was
they
in a
need them anymore.
hospital, huh?
I don't
Oh,
think
they
they
don't
need
need
the
them. No,
implants
they
anymore.
definitely don't need them.
Yeah, I think that
I don't even
that's
think
old
they need
tech.
nanotechnology, but they use it because and they use because everybody's really got this stuff in them and can be turned on
Yeah.
any time. That's my belief.
Yeah, you're right.
With
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
um,
100%. And that forever, like I didn't understand, like I always thought like V2K and chemtrails, like I pretty much believed like, I knew that a lot of the conspiracies out there were true. JFK didn't get killed by a lone gunman, the CIA is running drugs, all this kind of stuff. But I never believed in V2K and chemtrails. I always thought that it was just mentally ill people that were having an issue, and then it happened to me and I had to reevaluate everything. And I felt so bad because I was just like, oh, these are a bunch of like, meth heads and schizos that are saying this stuff, and they don't know what's going on. Like I feel bad for them. But now I know that it is 100% real, and now I understand the chemtrail thing because I
they
never understood like why would they be? Because people just say it's poison, and I was like, well, why would the rich elite spray the whole land with poison where they live? Like they live here too. Why would they poison themselves? And I never understood that. But now with sorry, get my Zen. But now with my understanding of graphene oxide and micronized aluminum and what they're doing with that, it makes perfect sense because you can get this stuff, you can get the graphene oxide into your body, the aluminum into your body, and it will do minimal, it's like minimally toxic at the amounts that they're putting in there. And you can take supplements to kind of take care of those things. So eat healthy, no, you wouldn't be affected, but it can be activated electronically. That's the aspect. That's why they're doing it because they can get it in their body, but if they're not targeted with this technology, it doesn't really do anything. It takes an RF signal or EMF to actually to activate it. Where that's what these I see a lot of people talking about, and I'd like to hear what your thoughts are on it. Because I think that this is all done neurologically. Even the direct energy weapon thing where people get these burns on their feet and their face and their hands, and you can actually see like a red horrible rash and stuff like that that'll happen. I think that can all be done by influencing the central nervous system and causing localized histamine reactions.
oh yeah.
Because yeah, and so they can send pain signals. They can make you feel like your feet are on fire. I mean, with me, they could control the my heartbeat. I mean, they were causing me to have like tachycardia, like my heart was like beating out of my chest. I was having like adrenaline surges as I'm laying down to go to sleep, and I was totally relaxed. And all of a sudden, I'm like, like it was just like a extreme, like almost like you're in fight or flight mode for no reason. Um, and I mean, I woke up two different times. One time I woke up, I was basically like strangling myself like this, and another time I woke up and I had my hand pressed against my carotid artery, just in the air, pressing down, and my head was I woke up, my veins were bulging out of my head. So I mean, they can actually like move your limbs around when you're unconscious. So like if you're not sending the signals, they can send the signals and they can move your body around, which
My
opens up. Yeah, go
my
ahead.
take on this is everybody's got a unique neural signature. And they have from my research, the free phones that they're giving out to everybody was mapping people's brains, and getting your neural signature. Once they have your brain mapped out, they can target you any way you want. So, the best way to describe it is, they've studied this stuff over the years so much they know what frequency to send that does what. They
Yeah,
know exactly what frequency to make you sleep, what frequency to make your leg
yep,
jump, because they
yeah.
take over your cerebral cortex and they can do anything from there. And like man, what was I gonna say? Like I was
They can
gonna
make you blank out too. They can make you. They can totally.
yeah.
When my V2K was torturing me, they were doing stuff like they were completely changing my emotional state. Like I was sitting there like basically like I was basically like weeping over the behavioral changes in my wife and worrying about her. And the V2K was like, hey, watch this. And all of a sudden I just felt nothing. Like I felt like all of my sadness went away, and I just felt completely calm, and I felt completely like that that sinking feeling in your chest, or your stomach, and all that stuff. It just disappeared in an instant. And they were like, "Isn't that cool?" And I was like, "What?" I was like, "You guys can completely control my emotion." And then it was like, and they're like, "Yeah, watch this." And then it was like they pressed the button again, and I was like back to just feeling like horrifically sad again. And then they after that they started doing that. I'd be walking along, and the V2K would say some stupid joke or point something out that wasn't funny, and like I would start laughing at it, and it was bizarre. It's like they can send signals. And when I've been in contact with Dr. John Hall, who wrote a few books on this, and he experienced this with his ex-fiance, very similar. And he heard me on the Strange Planet podcast, and he actually did a podcast with them about my story after that. But when I talked to him, he was explaining it's called EEG heterodyning and EEG cloning. And so
Yep.
they basically record EEG brain signals when you're in a certain state, and then they can play it back to you, like they're playing tape back to you, and you feel the emotion exactly the same as if it was 100% real. And you have to
And the
just, I mean,
person
for me,
beside you won't feel it
yeah,
because their brain, it's just like you put two cell phones side by side. If I call one of the cell phones, only one of them rings
yeah,
because I'm only dialing up that receiver. So I'm only first sending frequencies to that unique brain print. You see,
hmm
your
hmm
neural signature. Everybody's got a different one, just like everybody's got different fingerprints.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm going to be reading this book. This book goes. This dude's from Brazil, and anybody that knows the mind control in Brazil, Brazil was the first one to put legislation on this brain to computer. I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, this guy, Felipe Saboya de Santa Cruz Abreu, he was born in Rio de Janeiro, pursues a career. Anyway, this dude wrote MK Tech Invasion, and I'm going to be reading this on
yeah.
my channel. I mean, this dude really done his research for this book. I mean, I've read a bunch of targeted books. This one goes into deep exactly what we're talking about. It's not no bullcrap
Yeah,
book, you know. He
I'll
actually done
definitely be
his
watching that.
research.
I'll definitely be watching that. And another Brazil, and if you look at Russia, Russia during the Soviet Union, they had defectors that left the Soviet Union talking about this technology in the 60s and 70s, where they were like, hey, they're using EMF and they can change people's brain states, they can scramble people's brains, they can drive them insane, they can erase memory, they can implant false memories. And when they came to the United States, they were basically ignored because the State Department here was working on the same stuff and they kept it totally classified. To this day, they won't admit any of this technology is plausible or that it really exists. They'll say it has minimal effects on the brain, and oh yeah, that was like old stuff that they were working on. But they spent like $1 billion researching it, and they spent the same amount in Russia. And in 2001, I think there's a former he was somebody in the Duma in Russia. He wrote a whole paper talking about psychotronic weapons and psychotronic generators that could change people's brain states and could be used. He was saying that this technology could be used on a smaller scale by organized crime, which is exactly what I think is going on with this targeting thing, where they could target women and basically scramble their brains and turn them into a sex slave. They could target men and drive them nuts and steal their money, and nobody would believe them. They could basically like make you just they could make you meet somebody and just be like, I like you, here's a car, type of stuff, and in 2001, they released a paper in Russia talking about all this stuff. And I'm not sure if they actually passed legislation, but very respected people in the Duma there, came forward and did a bunch of research and there's a bunch of papers from the Soviet Union that are declassified now, and the State Department, who was, watching the Soviet Union and talking to these defectors, where you can find CIA declassified documents, confirming all this technology back in the 60s and 70s. So they've
Right.
had,
And I think that
they've,
they
mhm.
want to keep that, they want to keep you going down a rabbit hole of thinking you need something in you and all that. Um, and I know that they are
Yeah.
finding, you got, uh, I think, when you got people, well, I don't, I just want to watch what I say because I'm trying to stay out of all that stuff and just, but anyway, I
Yeah.
just think that they don't need, I'm like you, I don't think they need none of that. I'm not saying that
No.
there's not people that have technology in them that's communicating and sending off
Oh yeah, they
frequencies and
found,
stuff like that.
yeah, they were experimenting on prisoners and putting implants. There was a case, I forget which prison, but yeah, prisoners came forward and said that they were being experimented on with implants and this technology and the same stuff I've been talking about, where people are, basically beaming a transmission right into your head, and they're saying your thoughts to you. So they're reading people's minds and affecting their emotional states. But now, yeah, I think that the scale that I've seen it, and I mean, I've seen random people on the street just come up and say stuff to me that they shouldn't have known, and or act bizarre, and just go nuts for no reason. And I've heard a lot of TIs say the same thing, that, and a lot of them think like the homeless people are being paid by, criminals or a government agent to mess with them. But this is a technology that can access like pretty much anybody, and can influence them. And if they're mentally compromised or a drug addict or something like that, then they'll act more impulsively and they'll act on those things more than like a regular person that has their wits about them. Like if they tell some homeless guy that's been huffing paint for the last 6 months, like, oh hey, go get mad at this guy and push him, he might go and do it. I mean, if they sent the same signal to some businessman who's going to have lunch, he's going to get that thought in his head and be like, well, that was a weird, intrusive thought, and he's just going to go to lunch. He's not going to do it. But that's what I've been seeing a lot of. They like to target mentally compromised people. And in fact, after I did the Strange Planet podcast, my sister, who's developmentally delayed, she started hearing voices, and they started. I believe they hit her with V2K, and she was hearing the voice of my mother and I think my grandmother in her head, saying awful things to her and saying that my mother killed her pets, and they turned her completely against her caretaker, my mother, and she ended up in a now she's right now in a psych ward. And when I try to talk to her and say, hey, mom did not kill your pets, mom loves you, she wants to talk to you, she'll just go into a looping, saying the same thing over and over again, like, no, she hates me, and I hate her, she's evil, she beat me, and she killed our pets. And yeah, Ben, the pets are dead, the pets are dead. And I'm like, no, they aren't, no, they aren't. But I can't get through to her at all. And it's because all
Right.
of a sudden, after I did that
Wow.
Strange Planet podcast, bam, she started getting hit with V2K and was hearing voices for, they said it was a medication issue, but she was still
Uh-huh.
hearing, after they fixed her medication and had her in the psych ward, she was still hearing the voices. And they're very specific. The actual voice of my mother, and she was saying she could hear my mother, when she went to drop her stuff off in the hospital. On the other side of the hospital, she said she could hear my mother talking to her through the wall. And like that's obviously impossible. And
Yeah.
but she was hearing those voices, and they drove her away from her caretaker, and now she's going to be put in some kind of state-run group home, and isolated. And my mother is heartbroken, and she's an excellent caretaker. I saw them together. She took very good care of her and loves her very much, and it's tragic. But when they target somebody that's mentally compromised with this technology, it's extremely effective, extremely effective. That just
Right.
kind of shows it.
And you get a lot of people um, that now that you got these scans and all that, just because even if everybody, I feel like everybody who gets scanned is going to be emitting a frequency or have something in their body communicating or have a MAC ID. because of the stuff that's been sprayed in the air. Everybody's compromised.
Yeah,
So but
and
not
when you brought
everybody's
up
targeted. Not everybody gets voices put in their head. Not everybody,
right.
because there's a difference in finding something in your body that's getting set up for the biodigital convergence,
Hmm.
and they're trying to augment in all humans and actually being targeted, having your life
Hmm.
destroyed, blacklisted everywhere you go, having a voice in your head that
Yep.
comments on everything you do, tries to keep your
Hmm.
self-esteem low, tries to keep you in
Hmm.
fear. There's a difference in that,
Oh yeah.
because I've heard stories of people that have been scanned just to get scanned and they had stuff in them, but they didn't have none of that going on. So I don't consider them being targeted because I think everybody's got the stuff in them now
Yeah.
somehow because they're getting ready to do this biodigital convergence and all that. So they have to have the stuff in everybody. And somebody
It's mass
sent me
mind control.
listen to this before I forget it. Somebody sent me a message. I'm gonna keep their name because I don't have permission, but they said that the other day. Listen to this. This is scary too. They said, I had my Starlink installed the other day. The guy basically confirmed that all the people around us basically are robots. He said people are going to be shocked.
Yeah.
And when I say
That's it.
rock,
Yep.
and he said some of them are purely synthetic humans who were never born of a man and woman. They were test tube
Wow.
babies grown. And then there are also God's people born of a man and woman, but our genetics have been altered to receive the Wi-Fi signal, the 6G, the terahertz coming, where we run the system, our energy does, and AI attached to our minds and bodies. But that stuff is
I think
scary. But if the
I don't
Starlink guy said, and I'm not saying robots physically. I wouldn't be
I know what
surprised
you're
if there
saying.
wasn't test tube people as synthetic beings, but I don't think they're in masses.
No,
But
yeah,
I
that I
think
mean
there's people that's
that's a big problem
augmented.
that I've seen. That's a big problem that I've seen when I you know you get into this community. There's a the way that you get a good piece of misinformation going is you have like a kernel of truth, which yeah, this is a mass mind control project that is able to influence people around you, and they're programming people. They're programming people to act in certain ways and to think certain things. But then you get that kernel of truth, and then they also throw in like, oh, and by the way, a bunch of people are just like test tube like clones that aren't even real people. And I don't agree with that. I think that they can do that, and they definitely can make clones. They definitely that's a whole other that's a whole other can of worms. But yeah, I mean, they discovered cloning a long time ago, and they're definitely cloning humans and doing that type of stuff. But it's people are confusing the mind control with this with that conspiracy, to the point where they think celebrities are being replaced by clones.
Oh yeah,
They're not. I don't believe any of that. I think those celebrities are being they're being hypnotized and programmed, and they start to act crazy and change their behavior because it's a mind control thing, and that makes way more sense than they literally whatever grabbed Dave Chappelle and swapped him out with a clone, and now he acts a little bit
yeah.
different,
I don't
and
know
he
if I
works
believe it
out.
goes that deep. You know.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, it
And
doesn't.
but I respect anybody who believes that because that's I cannot. I'm sure I believe some things that aren't true. So if anybody's listening, they do believe that. No disrespect. I respect where your research is read. Um,
Yeah.
because it is possible. So we really don't know,
Yeah. I
but
mean,
I
from
just
what
think it
I've
was
seen,
interesting that Starlink guy said that though, and I think what he meant
no, it
by
is.
that is we're being augmented and we don't even know it, and when we find out, we're going to be surprised. And I don't
Yeah.
think that.
I mean the certain. I would say that yeah, certain medical procedures that became popular, around 2020, and were pushed on the population. They a lot of it was gene. It's gene therapy. Like there's when you start talking about messing with people's RNA and changing stuff, and then those medical procedures didn't seem to actually do the thing that they were supposed to do. It's a little that you have to start thinking, and that all of a sudden that medical procedure was ready for people, to solve a problem that seemed to be introduced by the government in the first place, way too fast. Yeah, alarm bell should be ringing in your head, that there's something else going on, and part of it is the graphene oxide and getting that into people's systems that normally they wouldn't have such a high concentration of it. And with my reading stuff like Bluetooth and stuff like EMF, like the Wi-Fi from your router, and even from cell phone towers, it actually has the effect of opening up your blood-brain barrier and sometimes damaging it. So that allows this stuff, this aluminum and graphene oxide, to get up into your brain. So if you're walking around with like AirPods in all the time, you're basically opening up that blood brain barrier and letting all this heavy metals and graphene oxide directly just go, flow right into your brain and build up. And from what I've seen, I don't even know if it can be removed. I mean, we do stuff that, like you talk about the garlic, which I'm going to be doing. I like to talk about NAC, N-acetylcysteine, which is a health supplement you can take, where they showed in laboratories that it converts, same thing as Allison and garlic, it converts that graphene oxide into reduced graphene oxide. So at least I think it inactivates it, or takes away some of its more toxic properties. So I definitely recommend people do stuff like that. And we were talking before about zeolite. We had mentioned zeolite. I really suggest people do a lot of reading on zeolite before they use it, because the pharmaceutical companies have been researching it a lot for their nanoparticle, like what's it called? It's
Excitement.
basically like it's basically
Don't it
like a
excite
way.
nanoparticles?
Uh, it's they're looking at it as a way to basically like get it into your brain and your entire body by moving stuff around on like a nanoparticle level, and that it'll basically has a easier access to your brain to get through that blood-brain barrier, especially if you're inundated with EMF from Wi-Fi and cell towers and Bluetooth. And I definitely recommend not using Bluetooth at all. Don't put Bluetooth next to your brain. It is even though the FCC said that it's negligible levels of radiation, studies have shown that it opens up the blood-brain barrier. And now I see people just walking around with like AirPods and stuff in their ear 24 hours a day, and it's like you're just blasting your brain with radiation. And I think that that's a part of this. Is it's like a multi-tiered thing, like your cell phone, your router, these cell towers. It inundates your body. It opens up that blood-brain barrier. And then, I mean, the chemtrails are obviously micronized aluminum, like sprayed with surfactants, and probably graphene oxide as well. That they're spraying everywhere. It's getting into the water supply. It's getting into all your food. You're breathing it in, and now with all that radiation, you're allowing that stuff to build up in your brain. And that's why I think that there's no implant required for this technology. That it seems like that's kind of their plan of just turning everybody into an antenna, like basically creating a just having this self-assembling nanotechnology that creates structures in your brain that just act like an antenna, that
Right.
can make this signal stronger to your brain, your central nervous system.
I remember when me and my because the first year was kind of hell before with me and my girlfriend. We're both TIs and all that. So she, on the way home from work, I talked to her and she got some Bluetooth headphones, some nice ones. Well, what they did was she'd be on her way and I'd be talking to her on the way home from work, right? Well, they start playing, making her think that I'm watching porn while I'm on, and it's the headphones. They're doing it through the headphones, making the noises. And she's like,
Yep.
"You're really doing this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm not." But she believed me,
Yeah.
so she
Yeah.
ended up having to throw the, and that was our only experience with the Bluetooth headphones,
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
so
I had the experience one time. I called my wife because I had V2K telling me like, oh, my wife is getting violated at work and trying to freak me out and trying to scare me. So I just called my wife just to be like, hey, how you doing, honey? Like, are you okay? Without saying any of that, but just checking on her. And when I called her, they did this crazy thing where she was like, yeah, hold on, I'm doing something right now. Let me put the phone down. She put the phone down, and through the phone was gunshots went off, like boom, 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 and then like a slamming noise, and then a dog like snarling and barking. And I just looked at my phone like oh, and I was like honey, I was freaking out. I was like, are you okay? And she just picked up the phone. She's like, what's the matter with you? Like, yeah, I'm okay. I was putting some laundry in the washing machine here. Like what's the matter with you? And I was like, I don't know. I just heard something weird. Anyways, I'll see you when you get back. I'll cook dinner. And but yeah, they can do stuff like that to
and there's even some
increase.
TIs that
Yeah,
are clueless to how deep this goes, but because they haven't experienced that yet. But man,
I would
and
never
I
I
hope
would
they
never believe
don't.
it.
But they can play some
Yeah,
hella games. I
yeah.
personally think Mind control goes back to, I'm a true crime fan. I've read a lot of true crime books. I think mind control, I think even some of the serial killers were mind controlled just to see if they could do it to
Yeah,
them, you know?
yeah, yeah,
In
yeah,
Amityville
definitely.
Horror, I think they caused all that in that house.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I
I
came to
think it
that
was a
same
mind
conclusion
control
too.
project.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they gave that kid a bunch of access
And
to
they made all
LSD.
the stuff happen in the house
Yeah,
remotely.
yeah, I think so too. I came to that same conclusion because it follows the same playbook where they fed this person a bunch of LSD, there's sleep deprivation, and then he just went crazy. And you're seeing more and more of this. A lot of news stories out there. There was just this kid, this 15-year-old kid that just got up in the middle of the night. He had no history of mental illness or violence, and he just went and stabbed his sister in the neck. And when
Wow.
he called the police. He called the police right after he did it, and he's like, "I thought I was dreaming. Like I didn't know what was going on. I just slept walk in here. I thought I was having a dream, and then it was real." And now the poor kid's in jail, awaiting trial. But I hear stuff like that now, and all these stories, people hearing voices and then doing something violent, and I immediately suspect that it's not just mental illness at this point. Which, if you never experience this stuff, anybody else is going to be like, it's mental illness. Like that's somebody having a psychotic episode or a schizophrenic episode. But now that I know the ability that these people have and how sophisticated it is, and that they're ruthless. Like these people are sadistic psychos that like to torture people. I mean, for months and months and months. I mean, they had me in just states of pure torture, psychological torture, just saying the worst things possible, keeping me up all night, and they loved it. I mean, they were laughing, they were enjoying themselves. And what you said about serial killers, if you look into Project Phoenix and what happened during the Vietnam War, they did a bunch of research how to turn people into psychos because they wanted to basically like use they're basically creating serial killers in Vietnam to try to wage terror campaigns against the communists there. So they were going in and like chopping people's ears off and leaving, massacring innocent civilians and leaving them in a pile outside the village and doing stuff like that. And that Project Phoenix is really something to look into because I mean, right after that, all of a sudden we had this like a bunch of serial killers. I mean, everybody from Jeffrey Dahmer, Son of Sam, the Zodiac Killer, and they were all affiliated with the military. Like they had all been in the military. And that seems to be where all of a sudden they came back a different person and they wanted to do horrific things to people, and do it in a very public way to kind of wage like a terror campaign. I mean, the Son of Sam, terrified the whole like all New York City. I mean, everybody was horrified because he was, and Zodiac, same thing. Sending these ciphers to the local newspaper and saying that he was going to be killing kids coming off a school bus and all this stuff. I mean, they were literally terror campaigns, and it's very odd when you look at it now and read Project Phoenix and what they did there. It's the same thing. So yeah, I came to that same conclusion. Yeah, that they were programmed and it was part of this. There's a really dark element of the government that they seem to want to sow fear and terror throughout the population and make people not trust each other, and kind of divide people, because now it's like, oh, is my next door neighbor a serial killer? Like you don't trust anybody kind of a thing. And I think that's done on purpose. Yeah.
Right. Let's see. We got about 10 minutes. So what and I encourage anybody to you know, if you have an Amish store nearby, buy all your food from there or try to find some store, a country store with local growing. And even then, it's questionable, but man, try to eat fruits, try to take all the sugar out of your diet. Sugar's horrible.
Yeah,
And
preservatives.
but
Yeah.
if you take all your sugar out of your diet, do not replace it with that artificial stuff. That's even worse, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I think an exercise, force yourself to exercise no matter what, as much as you can. Um, because man, and then I would check your for those that don't go out much, vitamin D is important because I've been doing it for like 7 days straight. The vitamin D serum, my mind's coming back a little bit better. Those who watch me. I'm talking about 10 or 12 times in a row. And I think a
Yeah.
lot of it had because these weapons, uh, will drain your vitamins and minerals. So then even if they're not hitting you, you're still feeling terrible and thinking it's the weapons. But really you got vitamin deficiencies going on and mineral deficiencies going on. And if you have severe, I was in the hospital 45 days in 2022, and one of the reasons was one, and they said at University of Colorado, they said I had the worst B12 deficiency that anybody had ever come in there had, and it affected me horribly. So a lot of people, what they do is uh, they won't even be getting hit, but they'll be thinking they're getting hit because these vitamin deficiencies will make your body feel awful if you really
Yeah, they
research
break
it.
down. Yeah, yeah. They. If you look at how classic mind control with MK Ultra, one of the big things is malnutrition. They want
Yep.
to sleep deprive you, and they want you to be malnourished. And when I was getting hit really hard, I mean, they were convincing me that everything in my house was poison. That people are coming in and poisoning all my food and my milk and my water, and I like would barely eat anything or drink anything because I was horrified. And that was all part of the process of breaking you down and making you more susceptible to this mind control stuff. And it's textbook, when you think about it. And I see that a lot with TIs. A lot of them are malnourished and they're afraid to eat. They think that a lot of them, they won't even go to McDonald's. They think that like the local McDonald's is poisoning them or stuff like that. And it is kind of
Yeah,
poison
it
in a
is.
way. It has stuff that's not good for you. But I mean, they think like there's literally like arsenic being poured into their Coke at the local McDonald's and stuff like that. And it's a manipulation to get you to be malnourished, so that this mind control stuff is way more effective because you can't think clearly anymore. And yeah, that's a big part of it. And I just definitely say, yeah, eat healthy. Lots of like vegetables, even stuff like spinach helps to it interacts with graphene oxide and reduces it. So try to eat healthy. Try to cook your own food, and yeah, supplements like vitamins or NAC. Plenty of garlic, all that stuff. Because I mean, even if we're wrong, you're eating healthy and it's good for your body anyway. It's not going to hurt. It's
Another
it's only going to help you.
another thing we've been doing too is taking breaks from electronics. You know, I was always researching, always talking to people, messaging people back and forth and all that and all that. But man, I'm learning this last 2 months, man, you got to protect your energy, you know?
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you want to save the world, and that don't mean we'll stop helping people, but we have to be take care of ourselves before we can
yeah.
help anybody. But look, if you notice, like, uh, I got a bunch of books. Like, I'm trying to get away from this is Modern Man in Search of a Soul. I want to read it again. It's the Carl Jung book. Um,
No, yeah, Carl. Yeah,
I
I
got
like Carl Jung.
intake. I got a book. I'm just trying to read regular books and I could get it on my phone, but I'm blue light mind control is real. That's why I got these glasses on. You need to
Hmm.
research that.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
oh
Blue
yeah,
light. Yeah, yeah. There's definitely something that I mean they figured out how to transmit. They call it Li-Fi. I don't know if you ever heard of Li-Fi, but yeah,
yep.
they can transmit information through LED light.
Optogenetics.
Yeah, optogenetics, which sounds crazy, but then you read about it, and this is a big field, and they can actually transmit more data through light than traditional means, which is
So I've
which
been
is
practicing just unplugging the router,
yeah.
reading real books. Like yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
um,
just try to like I've learned to just like yeah, you gotta I like every day I research this stuff and I'm reading, declassified documents from 30 years ago and all this stuff. But if for at least a couple hours a day, I try to just watch something or do something that's just fun. Like I go out for a walk or I watch some goofy YouTube video just to make me laugh. Because yeah, they want you in a state of kind of fear and kind of really working your mind too hard to try to figure out
and
what's
them
going
videos
on.
and stuff, it's been proven like the phone drain is a, a a dopamine absorber. So it takes your dopamine away. It you're looking for that next, and it's
Yeah,
draining you.
yeah,
And so I was real bad about it. I would stay on my phone looking at videos, looking at research, trying to find the perfect research and get to the bottom of this. And
yeah,
it would just be draining, messaging
yeah,
people, and then it just becomes overwhelming, and all your energy's drained. So that's one thing I'm working on is balancing my energy and protecting energy, focusing on responsibilities here first,
yeah.
and
And
just
and I
doing
and I
natural stuff.
And I just wanted to add that now I don't hear any V2K. I'm not hearing any voices or anything like that. All I hear now is tinnitus. I have a constant tinnitus that goes on in the background. Like I've had that for years, where it's just like a low end tinnitus all the time. But then I'll get extreme tinnitus in my left ear that changes frequency. It goes extremely loud and extremely high pitch. And I went to see an ENT, and he has scheduled me to get an MRI because they found that I had lost significant hearing in my left ear, and they don't know why. And he suspects that it might be some type of growth or something. That's what he said. So they scheduled me to actually, go and get an MRI. That'll be, I think, like next week.
Do you feel like you're up in the air all the time? That's what my head feels like. Like I feel like I'm at altitude. My ears are popping constantly, like
Yeah,
all the
yeah, my ears
time.
pop. Yeah, my ears pop all the time. I stretch
Yeah.
my jaw and I'll feel pressure in my head, and kind of both my ears will pop. And when they looked at my eardrums, they said that both of them were extremely scarred, which they said could be explained from having ear infections when I was a baby. But it's, with everything else that's going on, I suspect that, it might be a connection there. I don't know. But yeah, I get that. And I've been waking up like extremely dizzy. I wake up like I'll be trembling sometimes when I wake up.
Vertigo.
Yeah, kind of like I'll be walking weird. I'll be walking almost like a baby when I'm walking to the bathroom in the morning. And yeah, when I told my ENT all that. That was another reason why he scheduled the MRI. But yeah, it's basically like Havana syndrome type symptoms. Like it's weird. Like I'll wake up and I feel like you have a concussion or something. Like it feels like you it feels like you just got knocked in the head or something. And yeah, so I'm hoping they find something with the MRI, and I can get some kind of something on my medical record showing that there is actually physical symptoms of this stuff that they've done. Because I mean, when I was getting hit before, like and here in the V2K, like it felt like my whole head was like heating up. It felt like my head was getting microwaved.
Yep.
And I'd feel stuff like that. And now I don't know if they're doing it to me when I'm sleeping, but yeah, I'll wake up some mornings. I wake up and I'm just like, oh my God, like what is going on? Like I feel like dizzy, and yeah, I'm like walking weird, and then it just kind of fades, and after an hour or so, like I feel fine and normal.
Have you had your
But
thyroid checked?
I haven't,
Because these
no.
weapons affect your thyroid. Your
I've
thyroid
heard that.
absorbs radiation, and that's helped with a lot of my incidents too. Is I have a real under hypothyroidism, and I take levothyroxine, uh, and that helped with some of my stuff. But they have me programmed still where I can close my eyes for a certain amount of time, and I'll start feeling shocks. My whole body will start vibrating. I'll start getting nauseated. My head will heat up, and since I've been doing the garlic and working on doing healthy stuff and exercising more, like when I close my eyes, it's it's half the effects it was a year and a half ago. A year and a half ago, I couldn't even get out off the couch some days. It was so bad.
Yeah.
But it's
Do they
like they
ever
got me
cause?
programmed, whether it's a 15-minute power nap, whatever, to start vibrating as soon as my eyes close. It's weird.
Yeah. Yeah, I felt the vibration thing. I felt that. Like when I was getting heavily targeted, I'd be sitting in my computer chair, and it felt like the chair was rumbling, like there was a train going by or something. And I
Well,
experienced that multiple different times, and I haven't experienced it recently. But yeah, that was something that I was like, how are you guys doing that? And like I thought that they were basically giving me like muscle tremors or something by messing with my central nervous system. I don't know what it was, but I've heard several different TIs explain the exact same sensation. And do they ever, and they've done this with me, do they ever give you extreme dizziness where all of a sudden you're just extremely nauseous and like it feels like
oh
it feels like
yeah.
you have the spins or something? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
vertigo,
yeah.
nausea, heated up at the same time where you're sweating profusely.
hmm
Yeah. I
Yeah,
tell you what
I've
works
had
if you
that
can
where they
ever
just cause me
get
to sweat, yeah.
a hold of some. It's called Zofran. You put it on your tongue and it dissolves. It's a prescription thing for nausea. And we've went through so many of them over the years. Thank God we have
And
access
that
to them.
actually
But
worked.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
because whatever they're
Okay.
doing,
I'll look.
oh yeah, even though they're inducing the nausea, it's really the weaponry and the effects on the body creating the nausea. So nausea medicine should still work for people, or it does for
Okay.
everybody I've known that's tried it. like Phenergan. It used
All
to be
right,
Phenergan,
I'll
but they
try that
try
out.
not to prescribe that anymore. They prescribe Zofran now, and it works
Okay.
too,
All
though.
right.
Not as
Yeah.
good as Phenergan, but Phenergan would knock you out, which is a good thing for people who are sleep deprived.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll look into that. Yeah, because I've been hit with that to the point where it felt like I was going to vomit a couple different times, and there was no explanation for it. It just would happen
Oh yeah.
randomly, you know.
And I'll
Yeah.
tell you too, LED lights are bad. Incandescent bulbs, if you can afford them, get them. The first year, we would always sit at the dinner table. There's a chandelier above the dinner table, and there was four LED lights, and I could not sit there. And my girlfriend would get sick too, nauseated, heated up, sweating, dizzy, just vibrating the whole. And I would couldn't even sit down and eat dinner but 5 minutes, and then I would get up and have to move around. Then I'd come sit, take a couple more bites, like literally.
Hmm.
So. One day I get this wild hair. I find these incandescent bulbs. I put them above the chandelier, and I can sit down now and eat the meal and
Yeah.
tolerate it.
Yeah.
Well, that's
I'm
a
looking into
big
the.
that's a big deal.
Yeah, I'm looking into the same thing because it was really weird because I noticed they wanted everybody to change over to LED bulbs all of a sudden. And I mean, even if you went to a Home Depot, they didn't even sell incandescent. Like the only thing you could get was LED. And now
Right.
when I see that this seems to be a multi-leveled thing involving all sorts of stuff, that makes a lot of sense to me. And when I looked up and found out about Li-Fi and the ability for them to transmit, signal through LED lights when I researched it, they said they can't do it through fluorescent and incandescent. The only thing
Right.
that they can do that through is LED. So
And
right away,
Redacted done something about LED. Redacted's kind of the thing that I love Redacted to a point, but sometimes they kind of uh, how are you going to spend have somebody on talking about alien abductions or government black projects, which is what I believe, and then you got somebody talking about alien abduction being real a couple of
yeah,
shows later. That that kind of defeats.
yeah.
But they still bring some good information to the table, so I do watch them. And they had something on
That's how
LED
it
lights
is.
the other
Yeah.
day.
That's how it is. I try to listen to everybody and read everything, but there's so much misinformation rolled in with everything. And I agree completely. I think that the alien abduction stuff, I think, is military abductions and human experimentation. I mean that it's not it's just. I mean, and using this technology, you could make people think that Bigfoot was experimenting on you, not just some
Oh
military
yeah,
scientist. So that's the conclusion I came to. And when you start to try to figure out what's going on, it'll be a TI and they wrote this big article and they're talking about like, oh, these are psychotronic weapons. They use RF signals and this is how it works. And you're like, okay, good. Here's a nice source of information. And then it'll be like, and also it's run by reptilians and the reptilians do this. And you're like, oh, all right. Well, I got to kind of take things. You gotta take a little bit from here, a little bit from there, and be very discerning and objective about what people are saying because yeah, I think that people have their own beliefs, but I think that then there are people that are mind controlled and confused on purpose with misdirection to throw in stuff that isn't true and makes the whole thing look crazy. And then
right.
normal people, don't believe it at all,
And even and even and whether or not reptilians, aliens, or any of them are real or not, they're not targeting at us. So it does no good to talk about it on these channels because it does nothing but discredit us. You see, if
Yeah.
we're trying to get the world to believe us, we don't need whether them or even if them are real, they're probably not the ones doing it. I'm
Yeah.
almost 100% sure. So if
Yeah.
you talk
Yeah.
about it, which what they want you to do, you discredit yourself to people who are trying to believe and understand this. You see? So,
Mhm. Yeah.
like Dr.
Yeah.
Fred Bell, Dr. Fred Bell was one of the first persons who was pushing. If you look him up, he was pushing this stuff on Coast to Coast and stuff in the late 1999s about the neural signature. You see,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
then he had this experience where the Pleiades came and visited him and stuff. And
Yeah.
what they did was they discredited him. So
Hmm.
now people, oh, you're talking about Fred Bell. He's the one that said, hey, they done
Yeah.
that to him so nobody will believe him about the neural
100%.
signature thing.
100%. Yeah, and and
Yeah.
I've and I've been seeing that a lot. Yeah, I've seen brilliant people talking about this stuff, and then they start going off onto like, oh yeah, and there's 12 different types of aliens, and they live here, and they, work in underground military bases with the military, and it's like, okay, well, let's maybe not. That seems like a lot of, I'd say guesswork and extrapolation when you're dealing with intelligence agencies that specialize in counterintelligence and feeding people a bunch of nonsense to confuse them and to discredit them. And that just, is textbook. And I've been seeing that a lot. That's why I just try to stick to. I look up actual patents. I look up actual declassified papers. Talk about research in this technology. I'm not trying to claim that the reptilians are trying to enslave the human race through advanced mind control that uses soul magic and all this stuff. Although I think that there is a spiritual aspect to all this. I think you start to discredit yourself and you start to go out and get out in the weeds, trying to figure out that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's people doing this.
Right.
This is the elite and military industrial complex that want to have mass mind control of the population, because why wouldn't they? They could literally make people believe anything they want. They can implant false memories. They could go after a political dissident and make them lose their mind, or make it look like they did. So it makes perfect sense they would develop this technology and be using it on the civilian population. You don't
Like
have to
for
start going
instance,
into.
Mind Nexus on Twitter, Mind Nexus,
Mhm.
right? I
Yeah.
don't know if you know who that is.
Oh, I do. Yeah.
Mind
Yeah.
Nexus. All right, go to if you
Yeah.
go to their pinned, if their pinned post, it's Grady and Desiree's story, and it says what began as a powerful connection turned into a quest to reveal hidden technologies, alien implants. To
Mm.
me, that
Yeah.
discredited them right there. And then if you listen to that story, it talks about being implanted by aliens. I mean,
Yeah.
you're trying to uncover truth, but you're discrediting yourself in the same. It just I don't know. So
Exactly.
I believe that it's possible aliens do exist. I believe if
Sure.
there is, in my belief, it's fallen angels and technology that's been here for years. But I really try to stay away from talking about any of that because it doesn't have nothing to do with targeting, in my opinion, and from my research.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and it
And just
don't do
and it
nothing
just
but discredit us.
Yeah,
So,
and it's hard enough to explain, that this classified technology exists and it's being used in this way. And now you're going to try to, bring aliens and stuff like that into the picture. It's like, why? Let's just try to focus on the facts and things that, let's just try to, I would say deprogram the population they're already programmed not to believe us at all. All this technology doesn't exist and that we are mentally ill and all this crap. It's hard enough to get through to people just by showing them like, here's a declassified document that here's a patent that they use for remote neural monitoring, and this type of stuff, and that's like hard evidence you can show people and they still won't believe it. And now, yeah, now you have, organizations like that are saying like, oh, and by the way, yeah, ET put a implant in me. And it's like, all right, well, now nobody's going to believe you, and you're
right,
making us all look nuts. Yeah,
right. And
yeah,
then what's sad is the biggest form of mind control is right in front of our face. It's the propaganda of all this information. They got people going left, right, backwards, forwards, just every direction with different kind of stories and narratives.
hmm
So,
yeah, yeah. Even when it comes to just regular, right versus left politics, they're splitting apart entire families. They won't even have a Thanksgiving meal together because this one likes Trump and this one likes Kamala or whatever. So yeah, I mean they can split people with just that stuff. And that's why it's like I agree completely. And from what I've seen with conspiracy theories, like look at like 9/11. I mean, 9/11 obviously did not go down how it's explained in the official narrative. But then you get people coming in saying like, oh, and by the way, yeah, it wasn't planes hit the building; it was space lasers that knocked the building down. And it's stuff that's put in there to discredit anybody that questions like the official narrative, instead of just being like, hey, the FBI literally didn't do anything about these terrorists that came in that they knew about, that went to a flight school and learned how to take off in a plane but not how to land it, and the FBI didn't do anything. And then there was military exercises saying that the buildings were being hit the exact same day, and they had the jet fighters like off doing military exercises so that there was no protection. That's provable. That actually happened, and that shows that
I
there was some
think it
kind
was
of.
controlled demolition, though. By the way,
Oh
the
yeah,
building and
yeah.
layers fell straight down.
I think that there's thermite involved. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think they planted thermite charges. But I mean, even that, like you see with those conspiracy theories, people being like, "Oh, it was a Kabbalistic religious sacrifice, and there were space lasers,
yeah,
and you can see how anybody that's kind of a more straight-laced normal person is just going to be like, all right, yeah, I don't believe any of it now. Yeah, I believe the government. They're telling the truth. You guys are nuts.
exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that they
Well,
do that with every conspiracy.
um, I'm out of time, so about 4 more minutes. Could you like the last question I wanted to ask you is what message do you have for any of my viewers out here who may be new, who may be struggling with the same thing you went through as far as B2K or going through? Um, um, what advice would you tell somebody who um might be struggling with what you struggle with?
First, if you're newly targeted, just be aware that they want to put you in a mental ward. They want to give you a mental health diagnosis. They're trying to drive you crazy, and they're using a technology on you that's not just V2K. It's not just, there might be people on the ground that are messing with you and doing stuff to your car and stuff like that, but they're very few. And most of the people that you suspect around you are probably, overwhelmingly, completely innocent and have no idea what's happening to you. They want you to isolate yourself and to be scared of everybody around you. Try to maintain as much of a normal relationship with people as you can, because they want you to basically push everybody out of your life and be isolated, and it makes it makes the torture and mind control more effective. And just try to stay healthy. You know, uh, like we were saying, make sure to eat healthy, and try to have people to talk to. But definitely be aware of the laws in your state as far as, how easy it is to section people, and send people to mental wards because they want to do that to you. So like if you're in California, Florida, Massachusetts, the bar is extremely low to commit somebody to a mental institution. So if you come forward and say that this technology is being used on you, they could just immediately throw you in there. I'd say just reach out to TIs, and try to create a network that you could talk to about this problem specifically, and then have, try to maintain family relationships, try to maintain relationships with the friends so that you can talk with them about normal stuff and just have a normal outlet, where you can actually live a normal life. Because I see a lot of TIs getting isolated completely, and that's no good at all. I'd say that.
And what I noticed though is I wouldn't. I kind of disagree with you on the stalking and the boots on the ground. I really think organized stalking does happen to some targets, and a lot of targets is real. And they do some of that stuff because I
It is,
experienced
yeah.
it.
No,
But
I wasn't saying
but
it's not
some
real.
people, I think some people don't get that at all and just get V2K and the weapons attack, so they question that. Um, Now the question is, are they mind controlling people doing it, or are they paid? And because I mean, I've got a lot of people that showed me proof of their stalking on here that would disagree. So, and then from what I've been through, that stuff was real, and they did all kinds of psyops on me. So I think that, and I don't know how long you've been in the community, but if you're in the community long enough, you'll see people who actually have this stuff on camera, like real life, no question,
No, it
no
happens.
plausible deniability.
Oh no,
I
I
just don't want
was
to take
not
away from the
saying.
people going
No,
through
yeah,
that,
I'm I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I've had stuff happen to me. Like I
Okay,
told
all right,
like I told you off air, I had somebody like unlock my door and then lock the deadbolt so that the door was like held open, and
right.
and my wife thought I did it, and it was just, I don't, it was just a sign that, they're just messing with me to let me know that they could get into my apartment. And I've definitely had stuff go missing. And I've had when I had my car, it seemed like people were sabotaging my car. I had very strange problems with it. And I've seen that happen to TIs as well. So there's definitely boots on the ground. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that they they definitely try to push the perception to confuse people to think that more people are in on it,
Right.
on the
Okay.
ground
All
than
right.
actually are. And then people will start suspecting their family members or suspect friends. And I'm just warning against that. Try to keep a objective, a mind about it, and don't alienate yourself from everybody, because yeah, that's one of the things they want to do. They don't want you talking to people. They want you
Most
to be
definitely.
alone. Yeah.
Because I know there's friends and family members I pushed away because I thought was part of it, and now I screwed that relationship totally up, which is what they wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see what you're
Yeah.
saying now. My bad.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but
Um,
yeah, they definitely have people on the ground that mess with you. That is part of the active surveillance. That's a counterintelligence method to drive you nuts and to totally screw up your life. Yeah. I mean, you destroy some part in somebody's car, or cut their brake line or something, in a way where, you know, what are you going to do? You go into a mechanic. I've talked to a TI where he had to go to the mechanic so many times. The mechanic told him like, yeah, somebody's messing with your car. Like this is there's no way that your car is having all these different weird problems. This is bizarre, man. Like I actually believe you. So
Right.
that 100% happens, and it can totally screw up your life. Yeah, and that's what they try to do.
Yeah. And then some, I've talked to people who just have been tortured by V2K and don't get stalking. So, they do try to switch it up to cause confusion. Um,
Oh, and one more thing that I always tell people, especially women TIs, get a hardwired security camera system that's offline, that's not connected to the internet. Don't use those blink cameras. Don't use the Ring doorbell thing that connects to your Wi-Fi because those can be disabled very easily. These people usually are pretty good at hacking Wi-Fi. But get have like a you can get like a four camera system with its own hard drive for like $100 and set that up in your house or outside of your house just for I mean for security, but also just for peace of mind. Because like I was saying before, I mean they can with this technology they can make a TI get up in their sleep and go move stuff around their house and then go back to sleep, and then you get up and you're looking around and you think, oh my God, somebody's been in here.
and you done
And it terrifies, but they could have been the one that did it. So if you have the security camera set up, I found that once I set mine up, a lot of that stuff stopped. So I think that they're actually making TIs, get up and like, take something and like, toss it in the trash or hide it, and then you wake up and they're thinking that somebody came in and stole it. I think
Yeah.
that
Didn't
would
that
be an
happen to
excellent
John
tactic.
John Hall's girlfriend?
Yeah,
No,
yeah, yeah,
she was blocking the door and she was wondering how they were still getting in, and then he put cameras and she got up and let them in
yep,
and didn't remember it. Right?
yep.
Right.
I mean, that sounds exactly right to me, and that's the conclusion that I came to because I
Right.
found that they were making me do stuff in my sleep, and once I realized that hypnotism was involved, and being able to actually move you around when you're unconscious, that just made perfect sense to me. And explains a lot of the break-ins that I've heard from TIs. You know,
Right. Well, I thank you for coming out. Really, really informative interview, really good interview in my opinion. And I really, oh yeah, just one more of a question. How did you find out what the targeting program was? Just real quick.
um, I mean, it started happening to me, and
You just started
when
Googling stuff?
when I started Googling stuff, it was when the V2K started happening, and I actually had people talking to me. And at one point, I accidentally burned. I was lighting a cigarette, and I burned myself on the stomach with a lighter. It was just hot, and I rested on my stomach, and the V2K in my head went, and I was like, that hurt you. Like, and then I when I did research, first I found the Neuralink. They talk about how it can share sensory experiences, and then shortly after that, researching the different DARPA projects, I came across Robert Duncan and Robert Duncan's book, Project Soulcatcher. And when I read that, I was like, this is exactly what's happening to me. Like he's explaining the technology perfectly, and they killed him. He's dead now. Mysteriously, died. He worked with DARPA and the CIA, and knew all about this technology. And Project Soulcatcher is an excellent read for anybody that's targeted to help understand how this
Yeah.
technology works and what they do, and the psychological techniques that they use.
Yeah, and I've
And
got
that
that in
that
my
yeah.
playlist where I've read through the whole book of Project Soul Catcher in different parts, and I also got How to Tame a Demon in a playlist too. If anybody's interested, I kind of do commentary as I'm reading. And this, I'm telling y'all, this is a good book. MK Tech Invasion and Mind Control, Volume Two. Man, this dude did his research and he's got everything in there and backing it up and all that, references and all that. So, it takes uh, a pretty informative book from what I've been through and my experiences and all that. Some of them targeted books are, I give credit to all of them, but this man done some research because I thought, well, it's going to be a generic book, something no new information because I've researched this for 3 years, and this dude, man, he's got some uh, good information. So I hope you might get it. I think you'd really like it if you like Soul Catcher.
I'm gonna be watching your video where you read it because I can't afford to buy any more books, honestly. Yeah, yeah.
Right.
But yeah, that I'll definitely be watching that video. Yeah, because I'm always interested to find people that are breaking down the science behind how this stuff works. It's really important.
Okay. All right, well, I'm gonna stop recording now. Hold on.